Hi guys, my name is Steph. This is the Novelty Corner. Welcome to a Books Beside My Bed video. This is part one of my Love in the Night Readathon Wrap Up. The second part will come in next week's Books Beside My Bed video because as I'm filming this on the Sunday, I still have 2 days left of the readathon. Despite the fact that, Melbourne is now back in lockdown for the fourth time, I actually probably won't have time to film a wrap up later in the week because I will be remote teaching from home. We're going to break this wrap up into 2, but that's okay because I've got something like 19 books to talk about from this first 6 days of the readathon, which is kind of a lot. So I'm going to try and be pretty brief today because it's a lot. I have so many books because I was sick for the first 2 days of the readathon. I was actually at home, and while I was sick in a way that I can't go to work because I work with children, and obviously world things mean that you don't go in when you're sick, but I wasn't too sick that I couldn't sit up and read, so that's pretty much what I did for 2 days straight. Then we hit 2 days later on the Thursday and we found out we were going back into lockdown at midnight. I've had a bit of time at home, so yeah, books happened. So this is my reading week from the 23rd until the 29th of May. I didn't read anything on Sunday because I took a break because I knew I was going to basically be binge reading paranormal romance for a week. I read a total of 19 things, 4,047 pages, and my yearly reading total is 196 books. I did not read 19 full-length novels. I have read a stack of manga, I have read some novellas, I have read some full-length novels, but a lot of them have been on the shorter side. Let's talk about them. I'll also talk about the challenges for the readathon, and I've listed all of the challenges that the books fit into because many of these fit into multiple prompts. So I read Blackbird Volume 2 by Kanoko Sakura Kauji, which fit into try a different format, read a demon book and read a sequel. So I read the first volume a couple of months back, and this one is about a young girl called Mizao who has always been plagued by demons following her in her life, and then suddenly this boy that she knew from her childhood, Kaio, comes back into her life, and he's the head of a Tengu clan or a demon clan. And he intends to claim her as his bride in order to protect her because all of these other demons are trying to take her because then they can take her powers and become more powerful. But he has loved her since he was young, and so he wants to marry her, which in turn would give his clan a lot of power, but he also wouldn't be killing her. So this is a really fun series. I will probably continue it at some point. Then I read 5 volumes, well, the complete series of a manga, and that was Spell of Desire by Tomu Omi. And this one fit the try a different format, read a demon book, and also read a sequel because obviously I read 4 sequels from the first book. This one is about Coco, and she runs an herbalist shop, and she runs it on her own, but she was trained by her grandmother. She does little magic, but she doesn't really consider it anything special. And then strange things start happening, and a man called Kaname comes into her life and tells her that her mother, who she's never met, her mother left her with her grandmother when she was quite young, is the Witch Queen and a very powerful black witch. And she has gone into hiding and hibernation and transferred all of her power into Coco. And because Coco has never been trained as a witch, she doesn't really know how to control that magic. And whenever she loses it, Kaname has to control it by kissing her. So it's an adult manga, and it does have sex on the page and nudity, so beware of that going into it. But I loved this. It was so fun, and I loved the artwork in it. It got a little bit repetitive at times, but it was really enjoyable. And the best parts of this for me were Dragon and Unicorn, who are the familiars, who look like a kitten and a puppy and then transform into these big, beautiful beasts. And I love them so much. They were my favorite part. I also reread the group book, which was Deal with the Demon by Chase Verity. I've talked about this one before. It is about a single mother with 2 children who finds herself in a tight spot in terms of losing a job, and she needs the financial stability to support her family. And so she ends up receiving this flyer with a QR code that says something like, scan this to find your success. At her wit's end, she scans it and ends up with a demon standing in her kitchen. This demon is there to help her ensure success, and she uses him in a very unexpected way. And that means that she gets him to stay at home and do the housework and look after the kids and make sure everything runs smoothly so she can take a night shift job while she looks for something more stable and secure. And that's how she finds her success. And I love this. It is a gorgeous story. It doesn't look like it from the cover, but it is so sweet. It is a warm hug of a book. Well worth checking out if you have not read it. It is super short too. Then I read 2 books that were not on my TBR for this, and that was Taken by Him and Bared to Him by Jan Springer. I think I heard about the first book on a Fated Mates podcast episode. Actually, I think it was the Christina Lauren episode, and one of them had heard about this book that was basically about an octopus shifter who is getting his penis tattooed and weird things ensue. And basically that's what happened. So it was entertaining and a bit ridiculous. They're short novellas. They do feature 2 different couples in both books. Super short, super steamy, ridiculous. I've never read a book with octopus shifters, so I can tick that one off my weird shifter box. I also read His Beauty by Jack Harben. I read this for the challenge to read an author of colour. This is also a novella. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. The heroine's name is Isla, and her father ends up being caught trying to break into the Beast's castle, and she goes there and bargains for his life by swapping places with him, and then you have your Beauty and the Beast story, except in this one, the curse does not lift at the end of the story, and so when she falls in love with the Beast, she does fall in love with the Beast. It was okay, I enjoyed it. I thought I would possibly enjoy it more, but it was perfectly fine, and it's a great short novella to pick up if you're interested. Then I read The Healer by Jessica Gadziella. This is the second book in the Seven Sins MC book series. I didn't enjoy this one as much as the first one. I still enjoyed it, but yeah, there was something about it that was just a little bit different for me. So in this main one, you have Ace, who is one of the head of the demons in the motorcycle club, and it's his relationship with Josephine. At the start of the book, the demons are all still trying to find a way to get back to hell, and when they try and open a portal to go home, one of their own ends up coming back, and she has been badly beaten and she's not healing, and they're really concerned about her. So Ace goes off and kidnaps a human nurse, Josephine, and basically brings her back, locks her in the room and says, you have to fix my friend. Obviously you have a captive situation and a whole lot of other things that are going on, but eventually they do have a romance. So this one was a little bit darker, but I did enjoy it. Then I read Burn by Suzanne Wright. This is Dark in You book 1. I read this for the challenge to read a demon book. This is the story of Harper and Knox. Harper and Knox are both demons. They're different kinds and they come from different clans. They unintentionally meet for the first time at an organized fight. When they touch, they realize that they are each other's anchors. And so demons sometimes find their anchors, and that means it's the other person who can balance them out. So sort of like a soulmate for demons. They're very different characters. Knox is a billionaire businessman who is quite possibly the most powerful demon in the world. And Harper is a very unusual demon, and she doesn't quite often let people know exactly what kind of demon she is. Same thing with Knox. He doesn't tell anyone either. And the two really struggle because Harper is quite a fiercely independent woman and Knox is very overbearing and in control. And so they constantly clash, but the banter was top notch and I loved this. I cannot wait to continue the series because I really enjoyed their interplay together. There's a lot of world politics that go on as well. Then I read Queen Takes Rook by Jolie Sue Burkhart, which is their Vampire Queen book 4. This is sort of like a novella, reverse harem vampire series. The main character is Shara, who we met very early on, who didn't realize that she was the heir to a vampire kingdom of sorts. And so she starts collecting all of these bloods, all the vampire knights who are designed to protect her. There's a lot of blood, there's a lot of sex. And in this case, she ends up taking her blood to New York because one of her enemies is there. And it's about their power struggle and how she ends up taking more power for herself. It's getting a little bit ridiculous in the series, but hey, they're not long. I will continue to read them. I might try and finish off the 5th and 6th book before the readathon ends, just so I can wrap that series up. I also read Better Off Red by Rebecca Weatherspoon. I read this for the challenge to read an LGBTQIA+ book because it is a FF romance, but it also fits the author of colour prompt. Basically, this book can be summed up as sorority vampires on campus. I enjoyed the concept a lot and I thought it was really cool. I found the pacing to be really off, I found it to be really slow, and I just wasn't interested in the characters, unfortunately. So this one was unfortunately a bit of a miss for me, but I love the whole idea behind it. I'm glad that I read it. I'm not sure if I would continue with this particular series, but I enjoyed what it was trying to do. Then I read Today, Tomorrow and Always by Tessa Bailey. This is the 3rd book in the Phenomenal Fates series, which is a contemporary vampire paranormal romance series. We met the hero and the heroine in the previous book. I picked this book for my TBR to read a sequel. That was my original intent behind it. I was really excited about reading it because you have a larger vampire hero and you also have a blind fae heroine, and I loved them to pieces. I really liked their characters and I liked their interplay. Basically, Mary has been promised into marriage to a vampire who is opposing the current vampire king. Tucker, who works for the current vampire king, meets Mary and immediately recognizes that she is his mate, and he just wants to spend time around her. He can't stop himself, and she also likes being around him as well. So she wants him to drive her to her marriage because at this point she doesn't know that they're mates. Reluctantly, her mother agrees to this, and so they go on this road trip to her marriage. All the way they're learning about each other and falling in love with each other. That part was really nice. I just found that the pacing was a little bit slow for me in this one, but I loved the characters, I loved the idea, and I loved the fact that you had main characters who did not fit the stereotypical norm for heroes in a paranormal romance series. They were great. I loved them. The next book I read was Blood Kissed by Kerry Arthur. This is the first book in the Lizzie Grace series. This is a paranormal romance story set in Victoria, my home state. I read this for the challenge to read a witch book because Lizzie is a witch in hiding, and she's hiding from her family because the family she was born into is quite high. The witches basically rule as the government, but she is quite a disappointment because she doesn't have a lot of power. And also she took a human witch as a familiar, which is very unusual, but they have a great relationship. They're best friends. She ends up opening a small cafe on a werewolf reservation in Victoria. One day a woman comes in begging for her help because her daughter has gone missing. Lizzie is a psychometric, so she can hold objects and she can get a sense of people and where they might be. And when she goes to look for the daughter, she has this really deep sense of foreboding that the girl is already dead. And when she gets there, it looks like the girl has been drained of her blood by a vampire. And then the local werewolf, Sheriff Aidan, comes in. He has a deep distrust of witches, automatically assumes that she has something to do with it, and basically takes her in for questioning. Then the mystery sort of goes from there as the two of them end up having to work together to find out who is behind all of these attacks and what is going on. I loved this. I loved the setting. I loved the characters. I loved the interplay between all of the characters. Of all of the stories that I read this week, I think this might have been my favorite, and it's definitely one I'm going to continue. Then I read Wild Embrace by Nalini Singh. This is a collection of novellas from the Side Changeling series. I read this for the challenge to read a BookTube darling. The Side Changeling series is very popular. It's also my host's favourite pick, and Nalini Singh is a BIPOC author as well. This features 4 short stories. The first one is Echo of Silence. It is about Stefan and Tasia, and they are a psi-human relationship. It was just glorious to get Stefan's backstory because I've read about him being mentioned so many times in the series, but I had not yet read his short story. The second story is Dorian, and it is excerpts from Dorian's life from childhood up until he learns how to shift. It was really cute and really fun, and you got to see some of the early relationships develop between him and his friends. Partners in Persuasion is the relationship between Felix and Desi. Felix is a submissive wolf and Desi is a dominant leopard shifter. And so it has a really interesting dynamic. We don't see very many male submissives in the main series, so it was really nice to read that in this book. And the final book was Flirtation of Fate, which is Kenji and Garnet's story. And Kenji and Garnet are both snow dancer lieutenants. They've been friends their whole life, and Garnet always had a crush on Kenji, but then he would go off and he would do stereotypical male things. He would sleep around and all sorts. And he basically broke Garnet's heart. And so she's really reluctant to get into a relationship with him now that he seems to be ready for it. Their story has a little bit of a murder mystery going on in the background. It's probably the most similar in tone to the main Side Changeling books, but there is more emphasis on their relationship rather than the greater world stuff going on. I really enjoyed this collection. I'm looking forward to filming a separate video with the other collection, Wild Invitation, because this was fun. I also read another Side Changeling novella, Secrets at Midnight by Nalini Singh. So again, this would fit host favourite BookTube darling and author of colour. And this one is the story of Bastion, who is Mercy's brother. He's a leopard shifter and he stumbles across his mate unintentionally, and she believes that she is human, and then strange things begin happening to her and she begins to get sick, and it's how Bastion and Kirby find out exactly what's wrong with her and develop their relationship. I loved it. It was very cute and fun. I love Bastion. He's one of my favourite side characters because Mercy and her brothers have a really great interplay, and there is a really fantastic scene where Mercy basically goes to find out what's up with Kirby and hijinks ensue. It was a really fun scene. And then the last book that I read for this stretch of the readathon was Forged in Fire by Juliet Cross, which is the Vessel Book 1. I've been meaning to start this trilogy for ages. I have so many Juliet Cross books sitting on my Kindle, but I thought I would pick this one up because it is a demon book, so it fits into that prompt. It is about Genevieve Drake, who is quite independent and capable, and one night she goes out to a bar with her girlfriend for her birthday, and she ends up being attacked by a man who turns out to be possessed by a demon, and she is saved by Jude Delacroix, who tells her that he is a demon hunter and that she is a vessel, and she is deeply attractive to all demons who want to possess her and possess her power. This first book is really about her learning about her powers and what she can do and training how to use them, and also learning about who the big bad players are in this world. I had a lot of fun with this one. I really enjoyed Juliet Cross's writing, and it's nice to go back and read some of her earlier works. So those are all of the books. I'm sorry that they were really short recaps, but obviously with so many books I don't want this video to be a million hours long. In the comments let me know if you are participating in the Love in the Night readathon and how you're going with it? What has been something that you've enjoyed reading as part of the readathon? If you don't want to leave a comment but you want to let me know that you're here, leave me a flame emoji in the comments. I hope that wherever you are in the world you are staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.